Hello, and welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located in Naperville for people in career transition. If you are unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, this show is for you. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. Today we have with us career coach, career advisor, volunteer extraordinaire, recruiter, Mr. Steve Grosskopf. Steve is founder of Gobi Incorporated, a company he founded 5 years ago, and it helps people who are in job transition. So Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Kim.
And welcome. Tell me what you're hearing out there in terms of job search. What are you hearing from some of your clients you're talking to?
It's actually really good news. You know, for the longest time there, it was kind of and I still feel a little unstable. There's jobs still out there, people finding jobs. But for, as you know, I think, some of the longer term unemployed, it's been a real struggle. And so it's that half and half. Always want to encourage people, don't get down because there are jobs, but really double up the effort. It is a struggle out there. And I don't want to make light of that, but it really has picked up. And over the last 1, 2, and 3 years, I've noticed some segments really going sky high. You know, technology is always there. I think you're safe in the healthcare.
Absolutely.
And then with the engineering, the accounting, that you know they're always in need. But even after that, the kind of the secondary and things like this. To me, one of the indicators is sales and marketing. Businesses feel a little bit more confident about where the economy is going if they start hiring those people on, and starting to see really good upticks in salary, which has been
it's good. Yeah,
exactly,
it's not been
and
the case.
has been the lag, you know, for a while. People got jobs, but it was at the same that they had gotten a couple of years ago. So. No, I'm really positive. I was pretty conservative, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but so far so good. So far, so good.
So you're the long-term unemployed that you speak to. How do you keep them encouraged? What are you saying to them to kind of keep them motivated?
Yeah, and kind of a couple different ways. One is there's the short term. You know, there's just an ongoing feeling of like, why me? You know, and I know I'm marketable. And you want to make sure that you address that and saying, hey, let's create some activities to see some successes in there, even if it's a callback, which we all know is a strange thing these days. So, you know, it's those kind of small successes. And then in the midterm, hey, maybe it's the search. You know, let's look outside of the box a little bit, have some fun with it. I know it's a little tough when you've been unemployed that long, but shake it up a little bit. And then 3, make sure that we're on the long-term arch, you know. Let's focus in if they need a job quickly, that's great, but also, is it in an industry that's going to be around for a little while? What's the long-term trajectory of that? So want to make sure that we're addressing the short-term needs, but also the long-term
needs. Yeah, very good. So I want to go back to Gobi. A couple of questions behind that. Where'd you get the name? I'll let you answer that first, and I'll go on.
That's always a fun one. Is actually being a geography major in college. I was just fascinated with thinking of the analogy of deserts. You know, the Gobi Desert out there, helping people through the desert. But then a friend of mine said, well, it's a great name because if you want to go be a nurse, go be an engineer. I'm like, all right. So,
very good.
Yeah, we stuck with it.
Good. So, Gobi, finding work simply.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Very simple, very to the point. Came up with that.
Wanted to make sure that we, weren't promising anything that you hear about all the scams out there, secret databases, secret jobs, anything like that. Nope. If anybody's telling you that, it's a lie. All we want to offer our clients is accountability. Again, I'd like to have a little fun along the way. I don't force that on. If somebody's not, willing to, and they just need the job, I understand that as well. But we want to make it lively a little bit. Kind of re-energize the job search. But we really bring it down to numbers. Make sure that they're putting out so many applications, going on an interview, so many offers by such and such date, and if not, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
So it's really an accountability.
Right. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about self-assessments, because I know as people go through a job search, you want to somehow stand out, or when you do finally land that opportunity to interview, you want to make sure you do it well.
Yep.
So let's talk about the role of a self-assessment.
Yep.
Your thoughts on those?
Yeah, that's actually, so I do a couple seminars, and the ones I volunteering at the Community Career Center, I dive right into that because you want to know what you're bringing to the table when you're in a job search. And so a self-assessment is a great way to say, hey, I'm really good at sales. No, you're not.
Yeah.
So you want to have those things. And I'm a big fan, both of the assessments we have at the center, but if people are out there on their own, virtually not around here, there's some great free ones out there. And if you just Google it, usually it's part free and then you pay for the second half, but there's enough that you can get out of that free part that I'm a big fan of. But it's really getting to know those kind of things and understanding, again, the value that you bring.
Right.
And I'm for the free ones, but the one that I think we all enjoy is Strengths Finders.
Right.
Big fan of that. Hone in on your strengths, you know, and understand those.
Do you encourage people to take just one, or maybe take a second one if that first one's not telling you what you think it should say?
Right. You know what? Grain of salt. Just as being a recruiter on the other side and having worked for employers, it's a tool. It's not the end-all be answer. So, you know what? You take it and you say, hey, I think that's right. It reflects what I think. But also make sure you have a friend or somebody that knows you saying, no, that's really telling you what you need to know.
Or speak with a career coach or someone.
Exactly. Have that third-party verification just to see if it's what you think it's saying.
Right. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about target lists, because that's another thing that we hear a lot about at the center. Create your target list of companies that you're interested in working for. How many companies should be on that list? How do you create that list? What are your thoughts?
Just as with all the great people coming through our doors at the Community Career Center, I think each one is unique, but as a general number, I always try to stick to like 1 to 5, 1 to 10 is a really good target list because it's a living document. Just because I have, North Central College on my target list, it may not have an opening that I'm appropriate for, so it has to come off the list. So you keep it at a workable number. A couple at the high that are really the ones you want. The middle that you'd be like, hey, this is a great job, I'm happy with. And even the others that are saying, hey, you know what, in case I need a job, I'll do this. But I've had people, and I think you've had them too, 20, 50, 100.
It's like, how do you narrow that down? You got to pare that down somehow.
Exactly.
And you encourage job seekers to do research on these companies before they just say, hey, I want to work for company B because they look good on paper, but you really need to know.
And I think, first off, start with a blank sheet, and if it's just a dream job, write it down, Disney, what are these other things on there? That's great to start with, but then you do the research and really pare that down.
Great, wow. Well, thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate you joining us today.
I love the center.
Well, we love having you here, and we love having you at the center as well. So, and to our audience, you're a new dad, so congratulations on that as well.
That's awesome.
All right, so up next, we have motivational speaker and author Connor Cunneen.
Good things happen at the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. Experience more than 25,000 acres where native plants and animals make their home. Discover the scenic beauty of over 60 forest preserves containing forests, prairies, and wetlands. Explore the wonder of changing seasons along 145 miles of trails. Get outside and discover the good things that happen when you visit DuPage Forest Preserves, the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, where good things happen.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextsstopwrecks.org.
Welcome back to Career Center. We are excited to have with us motivational speaker and author Connor Cunneen. Connor has written several books on job transition and will share with our audience 8 building blocks to successful job transition. Welcome, Connor. Thank you.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you. I know last month we focused on the letter S in Chief Gab.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is just have you tell me a little bit about Chief Gab, recap the letter S, and then let's move on to the next letter.
Right. Well, Chief Gab, as you know, is a program I do which features 8 letters that are an acronym for 8 building blocks to say sane, motivated and productive in job search. And I tell my audiences jokingly that Chief Gab is the Irish word for do it or make it happen. Hence Chief Gab, do it, make it happen in job transition. And the first one we spoke about last month was S, and S is for structure. And it's really important for job seekers that they put structure into their day and into their week, because they had structure when they were in job search. Structure keeps people motivated, and staying motivated in job search is difficult. So you've got to try and take some of the ideas you had in the previous last job that you now bring to the job search that will help you to stay motivated.
So with structure, just to recap, how do they do that? What's the one thing that they need to do in order to...
I think the essential thing is that when they were in the last job, they knew what they were going to be doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, who they'd be seeing on Thursday, what they'd be doing on Friday. For the job seeker, I think they need to have a clear idea of things they're going to be doing each day of the week.
Right.
They make themselves accountable or get other people to make them accountable for it. And they do those things then. And they know that they've got a reason for getting out of bed tomorrow morning. And when I get out of bed tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I will be doing X.
Yeah.
At 2:15, I will be doing Y at this location, like what you had in your previous paying
So
position.
it's important to have that work time, that time where you're actually doing something, but then also some downtime as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I do talk about that in the Chief Gab building blocks. And actually, one of the things I do tell people to structure, the most important thing for them to structure is time to recharge their batteries, because you know the impact it has on job seekers. And if you're on the job 24/7, you're not going to be fresh, you're not going to be energized when you're walking into that interview, because you've been spending 24 hours, 7 days a week just worrying, which you did not do when you're in your previous job. You were able to have downtime, take vacations, take weekends off, etc.
Right. All right, so today we're going to focus on H.
H.
In Chief Gab.
Yeah.
And H stands for?
Right, well, I pronounce it H, like the proper way to do it, okay? H stands for help, or as I say H stands for help, okay? But the idea is that in the job transition process, the job seeker loses so many different things. They lose the sense of lose structure, they lose the sense of being fulfilled, of having clear goals and objectives. They lose the camaraderie and the interaction with people. And the idea behind this H building block is that if you reach out and help other people in the community, do volunteer work or do something specific to help other people, you're going to put structure into your day, because you know you got to be at the sports centre, maybe to coach baseball at 3 p.m., something like that. You're going to be meeting other people, which job seekers often feel as if they're very isolated. And you're also going to hear 2 of the most important and motivational words in the English language, which are thank you. And job seekers, they need appreciation. Everyone needs appreciation, but job seekers often feel that they're not appreciated. These are ways that you can get appreciation.
So, you know, I would imagine that job seekers would say, you know, how can I help someone when I'm in this boat right now? I'm trying to, you know, find a job. I'm trying to do the things I need to do.
Yeah.
How do you motivate someone to go out and help someone?
Because there is nothing but upside to this H building block. 1, it gets you out of the house where you're spending too much time if you're a job seeker most of the time. 2, you're actually networking by default. You're meeting people who are of a good nature probably, who you would not normally meet. You tell them that you're in job search, you're looking for something, it's going to be of benefit to you. When you're finished, you're going to hear 2 motivating words. We said thank you. So when you're driving home, you're feeling better about yourself. And when you feel better about yourself, you perform a lot better at the interview, you'll perform a lot better when the recruiter phones you, and you perform a lot better at the next networking event as well.
So what are some ways they can help? You say volunteer. So if they were in technology, for instance, what would they do?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of different technology groups that they could get involved in, or they could offer support maybe to some non-profit and say, I will come in and I'll work on your IT system or support system, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. That might be one possibility. But try and get involved in some activity that will give you a feeling of self-worth and that creates a structure for you as well. I mean, one other example, example I always remember, it was at the Community Career Centre. One of the people at the centre a couple of years back, he said, Connor, I really believe in this helping in the community, how it makes a difference to you. He said he was at the supermarket a couple of weeks previously. He had been coaching a baseball team, and he was feeling a bit down because the week hadn't gone particularly well. The kid's dad, in the baseball team, came up to him as he was in the supermarket, and he said, "Hi, coach." And it was just being called coach made him feel so much better. And the dad thanked him for the effort that he was putting in coaching the kid. And he said it made his day. And that's just a simple example that job seekers can find ways to make themselves feel better about themselves.
So it's just really important to go out there and help and do the things that you can as you're in your job search.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Because you're doing things that are going to give you something to say at the interview as well. You can go into the interview and say, for the last 3 months, I've actually been doing support services for a non-profit in IT.
You can put that on your resume.
Absolutely, yeah. There is all upside, no downside to this H building block.
Yeah, well, great. So tell me what's going on with Chief Gab. I know you're out there, you're doing a lot of speaking on Chief Gab. Do you have some upcoming events?
I've just completed one at over Aurora Library. The other evening, I will be doing TUG, which is the Tri-City Unemployment Group. And as you know, I don't like the word unemployment, but that's what they call themselves. I'll be doing that in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, and I've got some other ones happening as well. And I do it pretty regularly at the Community Career Centre as well.
So, in terms of the times that you're talking to job seekers, what are some of the things most recently that you've heard from job seekers that?
Well, the good news is when I ask people, have you had an interview? There's a lot more people raising their hands than there would have been 9, 12 months ago. That really is good news. So people are getting the interviews, and if people are getting interviews and they're not getting the job, my suggestion to them is they come back to the Career Centre, do more practice interviews, go to LDS, do practice interviews. But they're selling the best product they've ever sold in their life, which is themselves. They've got to make sure that they actually sell that product well. And if someone like Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods has someone coaching them all of the time, helping them to become even better sports players, golfers than they are, our job seekers who are not the best interviewers in the world. I mean, there's only one best interviewer in the world, and I don't know who that is, but I haven't met them yet. They need to practice. They need to be able to get their phrasing right, the wording right, how they actually present themselves at the interview, because they're selling a product. And the way you sell the product is just as important, even more important sometimes, than the actual product.
The marketing and the branding of you is hugely important.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, Connor, anything you have coming up in the next week other than you said TUG and?
Well, nothing in terms of the Chief Gab. Although I'm doing a one-man show up at the Irish American Heritage Centre on Saturday. It's titled For the Love of Being Irish. So it's a bit of a humour, blarney and BS. But the BS is brilliant stories, Kim.
Okay. All right, Connor. All right, Connor, thank you so much. I appreciate you being with us.
Keep up the great work at the CCC.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Up next, we have Becky Brillon, Program Director at the Center, who will join me to discuss resume do's and don'ts.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Today, more than ever before, women are on the front lines of America's defense. These brave women struggle and sacrifice to help keep our country secure. They deserve to be recognized for their service as guardians of freedom. Please support the American Legion's efforts to serve the growing number of women veterans. Go to legion.org/honor-veterans to find out how you can help.
Welcome back. I am now joined by Becky Brillon, Program Director at the Community Career Center, who is here to discuss resume do's and don'ts, as well as happenings at the center. So, Becky, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you. I thought we would talk a little bit about resume do's and don'ts. I know we see a lot of resumes come into the center, and some obvious things that we think is pretty obvious that people should notice and they don't. So I thought we would talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
First thing that I know I noticed a lot is typos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran into a resume just yesterday. It said they were detailed oriented. And I thought, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how when we write our own things, we tend to overlook because we're just used to reading. We may have read our resume 100 times and we're just not catching typos. It's so important to have somebody else take a look at it.
Yeah. Don't just automatically send it out without having somebody take a look, because there's some obvious you switch a letter around or something, and that's a reason for an employer to just put your resume in a no pile.
Absolutely.
Appropriate grammar, fonts.
Consistency. So if you use a period after the end of a bullet, always use a period after the end of a sentence in a bullet. It doesn't matter if you do or don't, it's just be consistent throughout.
And then format.
Format, 1-inch margins, font is 11 to 12 point font, 10's a little bit too small, Times New Roman, Arial, and the reason... Either one, yeah. Some people have a preference for Arial, some have a Times New Roman. And I always tell people those strict guidelines, because really what you're doing is trying to make applicant tracking system software happy. Everybody has an opinion about a resume, and you want the job seeker to be happy with their resume because it's something that they have to ultimately speak to. But there is a scientific reason and way to do a resume just from a technical side.
Right.
The applicant tracking software cannot read tables, headers, and footers. Over and over we hear from employers, they would tell us that you'd be amazed at how many resumes they receive are blank. It might have the body of the resume, but no contact information because somebody used a header.
A header or something,
Yeah, so there's
really important.
things like that.
So you mentioned contact information. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about that. You know, I know that we have clients that'll ask us, should I put in my address? Not put in my address. Should I put in social media references like LinkedIn, Twitter? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, there's going to be varying opinions on that, but I am somebody who likes to see an address, not just a city with the state behind it. If you leave off an address, the employer is raising a red flag, wondering, are you out of town? Is it an hour commute? Am I going to believe that you're going to be with us long term with traveling a greater distance than 45 minutes to an hour? It just raises red flags. A lot of people say, well, they don't want to be online with a resume that has their home address. Well, yeah, that's different then. If you're uploading it to a site that anybody could access, sure, take off the address, contact information, that like a phone number. But if you're uploading it to Career Builder, if you're giving it to an employer directly, I think it's best to have an address. Phone numbers, one phone number is good enough. Don't need to say if it's cell or home in front of the number, just give the number.
And speaking of one number, it should be one that comes directly to you. Not one that's going to home where, you know, your adorable 2-year-old is answering your voicemail.
Cute for grandma. Not cute for an employer.
So if you have a cell phone, that's really the one it should go to. Just make sure you're answering that. What about email addresses? Because we see a lot of different email addresses out there.
Email addresses, as long as they're professional and not something like Bubbles 2 or there's been several different variations that are like, Sometimes people will use a number in their name. Don't use the year you were born if you don't want people to make assumptions about what year you were born. And sometimes the number 1 behind a name, like if it's a 10 or an 11, sometimes it looks like an LL, and sometimes it looks like an 11. And it's hard to make those, the eye doesn't catch some of the font things when that happens.
Is it important to, I know we talk about this to some of our clients, maybe creating a separate email that you just give out professionally, one that you can go back and forth to? And
that can be a good idea. I have several different emails myself, and honestly, I'm only good about checking one general email. When it comes to LinkedIn, LinkedIn allows you to have several emails coming into your LinkedIn account, but the thing you have to worry about is if somebody you know personally and also professionally, if somebody's become your friend over the years of working together, and they try to invite you to connect on LinkedIn, if you're not using the personal email that they have on your LinkedIn account, because that is considered professional in job search, they're not going to connect with you correctly.
Right.
So you kind of have to think about where everything crosses together and comes in, especially on social media.
And so you mentioned social media. Is it important to put down your LinkedIn address?
Yeah.
Twitter?
LinkedIn, Twitter would show that you're current to trends. If you're in marketing or sales, perhaps, any of the professions that are cutting edge, what's the newest technology coming, I probably need to have a presence out there. I left Facebook off of that because Facebook is still seen as more personal than professional.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean you should be ignoring Facebook on your job search, because a lot of employers have switched to offering positions to people who follow them on Facebook.
Right. And also companies like to see that you know all these different social media types. So once you're there, hopefully you can help market depending on what your role is in that.
Yeah, social media presence is important.
Yeah. One-page resume versus two-page resume.
Either.
Either?
And there's even, I saw a resume yesterday that had a section for publications, trademarks. You wouldn't want to leave that off. So if that pushes you to 3 pages, if you're highly technical, a lot of IT resumes will have a separate technological summary. You just can't fit that on 2 pages. There are times when it's okay to go to 3 even, but you've got to be only relevant information. You can't go 3 pages just because you like the way it looks.
It needs to be relevant.
Chances are good that an employer is not going to read 3-page resume when they're looking through a pile of 1-page resumes.
Right. So it's really important to have your job description, your resume, and make sure you marry those two together so that they match
Still
up.
be concise as much as you can. We're a society that is really used to 120 character tweet. And I mean, we're talking in sound bits these days, and information overload is real, and a resume that goes longer than it needs to is not good.
Great. Well, we're about to wrap up. I know we have some great workshops coming up this month at the center. Do you want to just touch base on 1 or 2?
Yeah, we always have LinkedIn Basics, Beyond the Basics. We've also got somebody coming in, Mary Beth Venkel, coming in to talk about options to COBRA.
Awesome.
And things like that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And they can find information at?
communitycareercenter.org.
Very good. Becky, thank you. Great to see you. I appreciate you all joining us today. For the Career Center, I want to thank Steve Groskopf, Connor Canine, and Becky Brillon, and you, our audience, for being a part of this month's edition of Career Center.